everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today we're going to be looking at the last head coaching hire of this offseason, and that's going to be David Culley becoming the next head coach of the Houston Texans. Obviously, as you guys already know, the Houston Texans are my favorite team, and we're going to start off with my thoughts about this. It's kind of been a shaky situation altogether this offseason between hiring the new GM, hiring the new head coach, and Deshaun Watson. Sounds like he's going to be out of town now, requested a trade today. I got a lot of different thoughts about that. Might even make a different video about that as well. But David Culley, next head coach of the Houston Texans, that's what we're here to talk about today. Obviously, he was most recently the assistant head coach for the Baltimore Ravens and the passing game coordinator and the wide receivers coach. He is 65 years old. He'll be 66 when this season begins. He has a long history between college and the NFL ranks. So we're going to go over to his Wikipedia page, kind of talk about where all he's been. Typically, I make notes on these guys, but since he's had such a long history of coaching, it's a little bit easier to do it this way. So he played at Vanderbilt University way back when. He was actually a quarterback there. He started off his coaching career in 1978 as a running backs coach at Austin Peay. Then went back to Vanderbilt, his alma mater, for 3 years, 1979 to 1981 as a wide receivers coach, Middle Tennessee State as the quarterback coach and running backs coach for a year in 82. 1983, Chattanooga wide receivers coach. Then he went on to Southwestern Louisiana, 1985 to 1988 as the quarterbacks coach. Texas El Paso for 2 years, 1989 1990 as offensive coordinator, running backs coach, and wide receivers coach. Then on to Texas A&M from 91 to 93 as a wide receivers coach. Then with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from 94 to 95. Pittsburgh Steelers 1996 to 1998 as a wide receivers coach. Philadelphia Eagles 1999 to 2010 as their wide receivers coach. And then in 2011-2012, he was actually promoted to senior offensive assistant and wide receivers coach. Followed Andy Reid to Kansas City as assistant head coach and wide receivers coach from 2013 to 2016. With the Buffalo Bills from 2017 to 2018 as the quarterbacks coach there. And then the Baltimore Ravens 2019 until he was hired as the Houston Texans head coach as the assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, and pass game coordinator as well. So he's definitely a guy that's got a lot of different experience, especially at the NFL level, mainly as a wide receivers coach, though, assistant head coach. So he kind of knows the ins and outs of what it takes to be a head coach in that regard, even though he has not been a head coach so far. This was really interesting seeing how the Texans would go about hiring their next head coach. I know a lot of people said Eric Bieniemy. Well, there's a rumor out there that Eric Bieniemy did not want this job. I know they didn't interview him initially when they had the chance to. They did later on, but that's kind of in the Deshaun Watson mix. So it's really hard to tell. I would have rather them hired Leslie Frazier or Jim Caldwell as the head coach. You know, they're both guys that are older, have more head coaching experience. I don't think it's the worst hire in the world, but I don't think it's the answer long term. And I have another theory about that, and I think that's because the three main candidates they were looking at, David Culley, Jim Caldwell, and Leslie Frazier, they're all over 60 years old. I think that the Texans, front office, owner, management, whatever you want to call them, they see Tim Kelly or Josh McCown as the future head coach. Obviously, they did interview Josh McCown for the head coaching job, although he has never been a head coach outside of high school football and has no relevant coaching experience at the college or NFL level. Those two guys are both pretty inexperienced. I think they want somebody here that can be a placeholder for a while until one of those two is ready to take over the reins. Obviously, they did block Tim Kelly from interviewing with some other organizations as well. So one of those two guys is the next head coach of the Houston Texans in the next probably 2 to 3 years. So hiring somebody like this that can kind of come in, stabilize the franchise a little bit, especially the aftermath of Bill O'Brien, kind of what's all happened with this Texan organization. You're going to have a young team. You're going to have to rebuild. Hopefully they rebuild the right way and they don't just trade Deshaun Watson away and nobody else. Hopefully they tear it down completely and rebuild from the bottom up. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen, but I think that's the right way to go about it. Like I said, overall, it's not the best hire in the world. It's probably not the worst hire in the world either, but I understand the situation. I understand why they did it, and I think a lot of people are upset Eric Bieniemy wasn't hired as the head coach, but like I said, there's that rumor out there that he didn't want to come here anyways. I personally think Eric Bieniemy is just waiting for Andy Reid to retire in Kansas City, so unless he gets an offer he can't refuse somewhere, I don't think he's leaving, and that's why he hasn't left yet. but we'll see if that's the case or not in the next few years. Just overall, these are kind of my thoughts. I'm really hopeful this will work out, but as a Texans fan, seeing him come in, seeing Deshaun Watson probably getting traded, it's just really rough, especially after we saw DeAndre Hopkins get traded, a year ago. But like I said, David Culley, I think he has a decent chance to kind of come in, stabilize everything. Everybody that's talked about him said he's a really great guy. He's really positive. He brings good energy every single day. And, in the aftermath of Bill O'Brien, a guy that was on everybody's tail, really negative, getting into fights with people, essentially verbal fights at least. We don't know if there was any physical fights ever, but you need somebody that's kind of the opposite at that. And if you can use a good positive energy and kind of uplift this team, it could definitely go a long way. But with that being said, those are my quick thoughts on David Culley being hired as the next head coach of the Houston Texans. With that being said, Tim Kelly is going to be retained as offensive coordinator. Josh McCown is expected to be the quarterback coach or some form of offensive assistant next year as well. And then the rumor is Lovie Smith is going to come in as the defensive coordinator. Obviously, he was the head coach of the Bears for a while. He is most recently at the University of Illinois until he was fired there. It's definitely an upgrade over Anthony Weaver, but whether or not it's going to pay off remains to be seen. We'll just have to see how that all works out. But once again, with that being said, please let me know your guys' thoughts on this head coaching hire. Like I said, it's a very mixed bag of emotions for me on this one. If you're also a Texans fan, be sure to leave that down in the comments. Say, hey, I'm a Texans fan. I think it's a good hire because, or I think it's a bad hire because, or, how do you think this team needs to be rebuilt? Because, like I said, there's going to be a rebuilding process, and I think you have to tear it all the way down because trading just Deshaun Watson away is not going to solve any problems that this team does have. With that being said, if you guys are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. It really helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, and that's really one for you, the viewers. Talking some fantasy football, talking football news, especially this off season. Then going into baseball season, we'll be talking some fantasy baseball, some baseball news as well. But with that being said, if you're a newer current subscriber yet to do so, also hit that notification bell down below. It'll let you know every single time I post up a new video. And with that being said, tomorrow I'm going to be doing my breakout player recap. So the guys that I thought were going to be breakout players going into the year and then how they finished, whether or not it was a hit, a flop, or what I'm going to call a push. So a hit, it would be, they broke out. A flop, they didn't break out or they regressed. And then a push is like kind of a pseudo breakout, but not really all the way there either. That should be a real interesting one to do. I was going to do that video today, but then this news broke last night, so I had to cover this instead. But with that being said, that's all I got for today's video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. I really appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. And, with that being said, I really look forward to seeing the comments that you have on this head coach hiring.